Hello, and welcome to Covert Castaway. I'm Holly.
Je suis Stéphane.
Join us as we share what we learn and how we're making the transition to liveaboard cruising. We are on it with the podcasts. We're killing it.
Back on it.
Back on it. We went into a massive hiatus, and we're going to explain everything that happened. And this is a massive, massive update. So we're excited to share a bunch of new information and some exciting boat news too. So stick around for that. So when we left off before, dun, 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 it was like this huge cliffhanger because we left the hospital and got CT scans and we're talking about how great it was. And then we basically fell off the planet Earth. So I got a couple emails saying, did something medically happen to you? So no, we're fine. But it was just weird that we left it that way. But wow, we were certainly busy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we were at the same time putting the boat to bed for the winter, dealing with a couple projects, and then planning the trip in Turkey.
Right. So our boat got hauled out and put on the hard, and we were kind of shutting it all down and doing some cleaning and projects to winter it up. And
a little bit more because we were also thinking like, well, we're putting the boat for sale.
Right.
So what if we don't come back? And
yeah. So, we had to kind of do a cleaning because we didn't know what was going to happen at that point. And we listed the boat. And, so it was kind of sad too. We kind of locked it up and walked off.
Yeah, we didn't know.
We didn't.
Like, exactly
is this
what
the
was
last
going
time
to
I
happen.
will see the boat? Yeah. So that happened. And then we were planning a road trip across Turkey. And that was epic. We got a car and we drove to Cappadocia, which is, why don't you explain how awesome it was?
Oh, you have to look at pictures. But it's really like being on the moon,
the Grand Canyon,
another planet.
Yeah,
it's
magical.
It's really magical place, and then the hotel we stayed in was a cave. I mean, the bedroom where we were in, there was an extension, but we slept into a cave. There was an original cave. Yeah,
these amazing cave hotels that are built in these, they call them fairy chimneys. Anyway, if you guys Google it and look at the pictures, there's tons of videos on YouTube because everybody who goes there posts, videos and Instagram and everything. And I'll just say the videos do not do it justice at all. The hot air balloon rides, there's like 300 balloons that all go up at the same time. We did that. In the photos and videos, it's like 100 times better in person. So it's one of those places you absolutely have to experience.
And then when you drive, it's just like regular roads, highways, and then you're like, what's going to...
what's going to happen. Yeah.
And then you get kind of into the valley, and then now you're like in a whole different world.
Right.
It's really cool.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. And
the underground city, which people lived in there. I mean, if I can picture it, it's just picture like you're now like in an ant colony underground for small adults or kids. And there are 8 levels, 4 of them you can visit. So you're quite deep underground and everything carved by hand, rocks, tools, whatever. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. So over the years, these caves were where Christians and other groups, social groups, being persecuted or whatever, lived. And so they would hide underground for months and months. And so the underground cities in Cappadocia are huge. They haven't even discovered them all. So that was amazing. And then we went the other way, and we started to also visit Sagilasos, which was another ancient city, which was also amazing, and we had never heard of it. And the ruins were in amazing shape, and tons of them.
Yeah, and that was the advantage of we spent that night in a hostel, and so we met some other travelers, and so we basically say, oh, driving that way, you definitely need to stop in Sagilasos.
And we're like, what?
It's on the cliff of a mountain.
Yeah.
So the views are amazing. And then you have these old ruins that are like pretty well preserved. The amphitheater is very well preserved.
They had fountains and everything.
So it was like one of the best so far, like at the time, ruins that we had seen, even compared to the ones in Greece that we had done. So that was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. And then we went over the other way on our way to Ephesus, which is kind of the big ancient city also that people talk about. And that was epic as well.
Yeah. Not
like anything we saw in Greece. Same with Sagilasos. And just stunning and beautiful.
Yeah. And it's always hard because when you see the ruins, you have to try to picture things. But in Ephesus, it's like if they're missing pieces, they just build them as part of the. So
you can kind of see.
You see, but at the same time, they're assembling stuff as it was. Mm-hmm. So it's really helpful.
Yeah,
it gives you a perspective of what the city was, and it was huge.
Huge, yeah, and they have the public restrooms, which is kind of interesting that people used to basically sit together.
Hang out.
Hang out. So that was really, really cool. Again, there's really great videos on these places, and check them out for sure. And then as we came back, we did Pamukkale. Mm-hmm. And Pamukkale was like a Tavernine mine, kind of like you would think of as salt mines, sort of pools, I guess. But it's natural Tavernine, and that was also just incredible. And everything's really white, with the pools, and you have all the Instagrammers like taking pictures with those big like angel wings and stuff, which is kind of crazy. Lots of Instagrammers at these places
from all over the world.
All over, Mm-hmm. And then we came back, and we hit Fethiye on the way back, and I got 4 crowns put in. Mm-hmm. Which was dirt cheap and didn't take very long. So if you ever need dental work done, go to Holident in Fethiye. Mm-hmm. It was great. They did great work, super modern offices and everything else. And I think I talked a little bit about that in the last podcast.
Dental work, and that's where also in Fethiye we did the VIP checkup.
Yeah.
So same.
Yeah. Same place. So then after that, that was it. Then we went back to Cache, dropped off the car, and flew back to the U.S.
Flew back to France
first. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, we went to visit my parents. So we spent a week or so.
It was about a week.
Saint-Malo and Rennes. And then it was time to fly back to...
A couple nights in Paris. And we went and saw the Louvre.
Oh, yeah. We spent... We met with Sophie. We met with my sister
Sophie,
again.
Yeah, from Ryan and Sophie Sailing.
Yeah.
She was there in Paris. That was really cool.
So that was really cool with all the Christmas lighting and
seeing everything. Yeah, that was the first time I've been in Paris during the holidays, so that was pretty cool to see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we flew back to the U.S. to see our kids and our family for Christmas, and we were all jazzed up and excited to see them. And we're going to have dinner together, family dinner. And I met my kids on the 23rd. And the next day, my son told me his roommate had COVID. And the day after that, we were supposed to kind of all get together. And so then he couldn't come because he was in quarantine. It turned out he got COVID. And my daughter couldn't come because she had been spending time with him. So she was in quarantine. And then I was in quarantine-ish. I was at the kids' table, like next to the sliding glass door and wearing a mask and everything. And everybody else was sort of my mom and her husband and Molly, Mike, and my niece and nephew. And yeah. So that was kind of a bummer, but taking tests every day and running around San Francisco trying to find some tests. Good luck with that.
And when you realize, I mean, we are not the only family. And and you know, in the grand scheme of things, everything went well.
Yeah.
He didn't have any. Jake didn't have any major no symptoms. I think
he ended up getting it, and he barely had any symptoms. I mean, and you know, exactly. Like there was a lot of families that were affected at Christmas in way more worse ways. So we're just happy that everybody stayed relatively healthy. But so then we kind of headed back because Omicron was like shutting down San Francisco basically at that point. And we came back, got back up on our snowboards for a couple trips.
Dewinterize the house.
Put
everything back together.
Yeah.
Then we found out we had a water leak. Mm-hmm. So we had to investigate that.
Say how much water we're talking about.
That started in August while we were cruising and not knowing. So it started with 1 gallon per hour. And by December, it was 20 gallons per hour.
Yeah.
And so when we came to the house, we were like, oh, is there damage?
Because what had happened is, you know, we put all of our bills on auto payment. And for utilities and stuff, I just set it on auto payment. And, you know, my sister was getting our mail and she was like, oh, utility bills. So she wouldn't open it because she knew I did auto payment. So we never saw the notices. So when I landed and started opening up all of the mail and looking at it, there's this, you know, fuchsia pink flyer that falls out of the water bill. And it had been going on since August. So that was wild. So,
yeah, I mean, luckily it was slow in August, but it's been increasing.
Every month it's been getting worse, yeah.
So when we got to the house, didn't see any water damage, so that was good. Went in the basement, couldn't identify any water leaks in the basement. So then we had to figure out if the water leak was inside the house or between the house and the meter. So eventually, by doing some tests, we identified that the leak is somewhere between the house and the meter.
So that was a process.
Yeah, and the problem is we live on a cliff, and there is no water short. Well, first it was covered with snow.
Yeah, because there was like an epic snowstorm. Oh, yeah, we forgot to tell you. Two snowstorms, like, you know, apocalypse-style snowstorm over Christmas in Tahoe. So when we were driving back from San Francisco to get back to the house, it actually took us 11 and a half hours to do what's normally a 3.5 hour drive. And so with the water leak, you know, the ground was frozen and there were just, how many feet fell? Like
6 feet.
Oh, it was more than that.
More than that.
It was way more than that.
Yeah, because it was 2 rounds.
2 rounds and it went all the way to the top of the sliding glass door. So how tall is that? Yeah. So that was a adventure. So we called an excavator who had to come.
Yeah, we tried to dig places outside that would be logical, where it connects to the house, where it connects to the meter. Unfortunately, that's not where the leak is. And so we look at different options, and it was going to become quite costly to replace everything and dig everything. And we found out about a company called American Leak Detection. And so they pressurized the pipe with some helium. There was helium.
Helium, yeah.
And then we went outside, and now we've identified, we have an X that marks the spot of where the leak is. So now the next step is to dig where this X is marked, and then fix it, and then put everything back together.
Their tagline was detection without destruction or something like that, which was perfect because we were like, how are we ever going to find the leak? Yeah, so the helium was interesting. They like ran it through the line and then went and sensed where it came out, I guess.
Yeah, it was like some kind of tool to measure that. So now we have to do some digging and do some fix that leak, and hopefully that will be it. But that's been going on, you know, this investigation, calling people, whatever, since December. So
I don't know if you can picture it, but we literally live on a granite, rocky ridge. Which is great because the views are epic, but we have no yard because our house literally sits on the very top of this like cliff, I guess. I don't know.
With boulders.
With boulders and stuff. So this, when we say, oh, we're looking for the leak, it's kind of a experience.
Yeah, it's not like in your backyard with like some dirt and grass where you're like, oh, the ground is soft here. That's maybe where the leak is. No, so that's kept us busy. And then everything you can imagine in terms of paperwork, like when you go cruising, you're like, oh, because everything you did before to pay your taxes, sign up for health insurance, life insurance, like all of these things that you do for paperwork to kind of get ready to leave, they all come due annually at the same time. So all that crashed in. I think we spent at least a week doing paperwork. I don't know what it all was, but just kind of, picking up for lost time. Still working on it, trying to finish taxes before we leave.
Yeah.
Because we have another couple of weeks and then we leave. So,
So that was interesting. And then just also reconnecting with friends and, people that I work with in the industry and making connections. And, that was really great time well spent just to kind of.
And lots of planning for this season without the boat. But still we're going to be nomads. And so then there was getting your visa.
Oh, yeah.
Long stay visa for France.
Yeah. So, I had to, well, first of all, my passport was, needed to be renewed. And you can't renew a passport quickly unless you have a flight booked to leave, which we did. We had a flight booked to Guadeloupe to leave actually February 1st. And so as soon as we landed, I went down and got my passport renewed, and you have to validate that you have a flight leaving. Well, didn't you go on your flight? No, we moved our flight out to March 1st to Guadeloupe because we had so much freaking paperwork to take care of and the leak to take care of. We moved the date. But then the second I got my passport, then you'd have to turn around and make another appointment to get the visa. And that was supposed to take 4 weeks, but it only took like 2 weeks to get that. So that was great. So I'm covered for a long stay visa this summer, and we're going to talk about what we're going to do in the summer. But we're going to be in France, and that came pretty quickly. And then we also had scheduled a 10-day medically monitored fast.
Water only fast.
Water only. So why don't you share what that was like?
So first, we've been experimenting with intermittent fasting over the years, and kind of I'm always looking for the latest science around nutrition or around whatever, and then when you start discovering some doctors that follow the science that explains it, it starts to be interesting. And so I had researched this, and then there was so in Santa Rosa, just north of San Francisco, there was this center that's been open for 39 years, I think.
39, yeah.
And has been taking like 20,000+ patients through water-only fasting. So when they started 39 years ago, it was like,
not a thing.
It looked totally crazy. But now there is some solid data to basically justify that when you put your body not in starvation, because starvation comes way later, and then that's when you start eating your muscles, and that's not what we're talking about. But when you basically you stop putting food into your body, regardless if it's good or bad food, your body then can start to rest and can start doing the wonderful things it's designed to do.
Well, it rests, but it's busy. It wants to like do other things.
Well, it rests from digestion because we're eating. So now it doesn't have to deal with digestion. It's like, hey, okay, good. I can deal with other things. So then I can go like kind of a water leak, you can go like find where is like,
it's weird.
Is there like something here?
It's like our body has OCD, like it can't stop fidgeting. And so, when you stop eating, it's like, okay, let's go find the cancer cells and let's go clean this out and detox. And like, so all this really cool stuff happens.
Yeah, it's just an amazing machine. And you just have to put it in an environment for it to kind of do what it can do. So
let me explain though what it was like.
Let me just say that first. It was like, all this sounded like a great idea until I think like a week or less before it was going to start. And then when you start telling like your family and you're like, that sounds a little crazy to not eat for 10 days. Like, are we going to be able to survive? Like, it suddenly like doubt comes and creeps in. And until you start, and then you're not thinking about all this anymore. But I must say there was a little bit of like anxiety to be like, what have we signed up for?
Yeah, and I wasn't really thinking too much about it. I was just like, oh, you want to do it? Okay, I'll do it with you, and why not? And so and then we show up, and I'm like, what are we doing? What's happening? So this place is like a one of those apartment complexes, and all the units kind of face the courtyard. Mm-hmm. Kind of like looks a little like Melrose Place, if you remember that show on TV. Everybody kind of looks into the courtyard, and then it has these little apartments. And so they have like kitchens and everything, but there's nothing. There's no food. There's no dishes. There's no nothing. It's like one of those Alhambra bottles of distilled water. They want you to drink distilled water. So there's no cheating. There's no getting food from the cupboard. There's nothing.
Well, you could.
You can. I mean,
we've heard stories.
Yeah, I guess people ordered DoorDash, and they're like, "Oh, your numbers aren't going down. What's wrong with you?" "Oh, I'm eating burgers." That's kind of happened.
Yeah, but they have a kitchen and they have like a buffet style. So
down below. Yeah, so they have like a community kitchen, and you could go down. But what they're trying to do is, if you want to go off the fast, they want to put you on broth or juice after.
But it requires a little bit of self-discipline because when they open the door of the kitchen,
you can always smell
you can smell it. And then you can access the food. Yeah. So and then the people come outside to eat because it was sunny.
Yeah.
So you kind of like make abstraction of all this. Although your body is also great because after the second day, I think you don't feel hungry.
It was crazy. I wasn't hungry the whole time. Yeah. Not the whole time. I thought, oh wow, I'm going to get hunger pains or my stomach's going to growl.
Yeah.
And it didn't. And I'm like, why are we eating like all these times a day? Like, does it matter?
That was the weirdest thing. Yeah.
It was strange.
And then during the 10 days, like you were...
I was working the whole time.
Working, but also watching like recipes and like videos.
Oh,
and, so it's, even if you're like, your body doesn't tell you I need to eat, you're totally fine. Yeah. And you can watch recipes.
Yeah, after day 5, it just became like this obsession to look at all of these vegan and they want you to eat all plants and when you leave, and no salt, no oil, no sugar. SOS, because you completely detox everything out of your system, and other things like TMI. But I started having like this dark color underneath my armpit area, and the doctor's like, yeah, it's probably from deodorant you just used over the years, so I guess aluminum, or I don't know what it was, but your body kind of does these things trying to get rid of whatever it's trying to get rid of.
Yeah, if you're curious to learn more about it, Alan Goldhammer is the one who co-founded the center, and the center is called True North Health. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Santa Rosa, California. You can also Google Dr. Clapper, with a K. There are good resources if you're curious.
And I was a little skeptical because Goldhammer himself isn't like a medical doctor, so I was like, oh, what's he doing? He's a chiropractor or whatever. But
from training.
But all of the doctors, they come in twice a day and monitor you. The doctors come into your little apartment, they monitor you. And then the nurses come and take all your vitals, and they take different blood tests and urinalysis and different things throughout the stay to make sure everything's going normal and you're not, experience any negative effects. But they're all medically trained doctors. The doctor that we had there that was overseeing us, he was great. And so didn't mean to talk this long about it, but it seems like people are curious.
Because if you do a whatever fast, like you do. So some people stay fast and truly like water only fast for up to 40 days.
40 days. It's amazing.
It's pretty amazing. So, but that means whatever length of the fast you did, half of the time is spent in refeeding. So they have a five-step process. So we did 10 days. So that means we stayed 5 more days to go through the refeeding process.
Which basically means, juice and broth the first day. The second day, you can have like light raw foods. The third day, you can add grains. And then the fourth day, I think you can add beans or something like that.
Beans on last fifth day. But you
can, I don't know, something like that. Yeah. Some
the third day, I think you can add some steam, like food or something.
Yeah. So that was an interesting experience.
It was definitely interesting. We lost a bunch of weight. That was not the goal.
Well, you gain most of it back.
But then you regain it. But yeah, hopefully. And so we'll do some tests, blood tests, in a few 4 to 6 weeks afterwards, because the process continues like even 4 weeks after. Mm-hmm. And then we'll see if there are some changes or something. So very, very interesting.
It was interesting because we got that full baseline and the medical intergalactic body screening we had done in Turkey. So we have every test under the sun to baseline it again. So anyway, that was cool. And I ended up just kind of packing my schedule and working the whole time. It was a little rough, I think, on day 8 or 9. But by that time it was like a Friday. And so it was over the weekend. And you had some headaches on day 9.
I mean, we talked about this afterwards. I had spent quite a bit of time. They want you to take it easy, basically. And
we weren't really doing that.
Yeah, we weren't doing on the computer most of the day, and also I had spent quite a bit of time on the balcony. It was sunny, and they say you can become dehydrated, and so the last couple of days, kind of dealing with some symptoms, but then you start the refeeding after that, and it goes
Plus,
away.
Stefan, you have like no body fat, so I have plenty of reserves. I will survive this. If we're in a life raft, at least I know I can last 10 days without food as long as we have water.
Yeah, I mean, it's good training for cruising. Like if you somehow your food gets spoiled with salt water or something, and you have another like 5 days or 10 days to get there, as long as you have water, then you can survive without food.
Anyway, so after that was done, then we were sort of gone again because we were gone out of our house. And then we came back and, dealing again with the leaks and dealing with the other stuff around the house. But the big reveal is, where are you going next week, Stefan?
I'm headed back to Kash in Turkey, where the boat is.
So we are so excited because we sold the boat, knock on wood, because we are doing a handover, but pretty much everything looks really, really good, to this amazing couple that lives 5 hours from us, which is so crazy.
Yeah, and we ended up meeting in person.
So we ended up, so they were interested. The boat's in Turkey. They're originally from Australia, and we'll share more. And hopefully we want to get them on the next podcast or two, maybe, to share their perspective. And they reached out, and I friended her on Facebook. And then next thing you know, I'm seeing her skiing at Heavenly, which is literally 4 minutes from our house. I'm like, are you at Heavenly? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we live there. And so we met in person and had coffee and everything. So they live in Nevada too, which is just wild and coincidental. But they've been fabulous, super great to work with through this process. And they're really excited about the boat. And so you're going to go with her. She's the skipper because that's badass. And put the boat back in the water. And then...
go through the systems and test everything we can test. And then just do so that should be like the first day. And the second day, trying to spend as much time. I mean, it's a lot of information to share, but at least I can go through the boat. Trying to... share as much information as possible, and then ultimately they're going to ship the boat back home, back to Australia, where they're going to move back. And so I think the boat will get there somewhere in July timeframe.
So our boat's going to get to Australia, New Zealand before we will.
Yeah.
Because that was sort of half of our big, destination to go to French Polynesia and then end up in Australia, New Zealand. So we're a little jealous of the boat.
But now it would be really cool with the new boat to get there and then
go sailing
again.
Or, they've also said, hey, come out and, sail with us out there, which would also be really cool.
Yeah.
If we had to go to Australia, because I have business there, and that would be a really fun trip. So, yeah. And, we haven't really wanted to talk about the sales process through the podcast, which is, I was always like, oh, do we talk about it or not? Or as we get closer, but now that it's coming close, I feel more comfortable kind of talking about it. We found a great broker that we really like, and out of Europe, and we thought, oh, it'll probably be a European buyer because the boat's in Turkey, and what do you know? They live right down the street. So but that all worked out. So we'll get an update from you next week after coming back, and so maybe by this time, well, a week and a half, I guess, from now, right? No. What's today?
Yeah, it's Saturday, coming back, leaving on Tuesday, coming back on Saturday.
Yeah, so this time next week, we might be boatless for real. And
wow, we have a down payment.
we have a down payment on the other one. So, so then our plan is to go to Guadeloupe. So we were supposed to go for 2 months. So we pushed it out and we're going for 1.
So that's the month of March. So it's in a couple of weeks from now.
And you're going to go kite surfing.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, I've been wanting to learn to kite surf for quite some time, but I started 2 years ago. I did 3 or 4 lessons. That was kind of at the end of the season here in the Bay Area. And it was once a week, so it's not the best. Everybody says do it like every day for a week to build muscle memory. So now that I've gained some boarding skills, hopefully that whatever skills I learned from snowboarding I can apply from the kite surfing. But I've already booked some a week of lessons. And
Guadeloupe's supposed to be great for... which is one of the reasons we picked it, yeah.
And the other thing is they are also teaching wing foiling. So that should be fun. Definitely want to see how that works. Because that's definitely a little dream to be foiling over the water. So
hopefully some scuba diving.
Maybe we can squeeze
and I'll be working some.
And maybe a little bit of like hobby cat.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be fun.
So some water sports and some
little work on the side, which kind of funds this whole endeavor as well. So we'll kind of continue that. And then after March, at the end of March, first week in April, we head over to
south of France. So we'll head to La Grande Motte, where Ultramare's factory is based. And so there are a couple things. So Ultramare is offering weekend classes on their boats. So we want to take advantage of those classes to really learn the boat while we wait for our boat.
And this is incredible. I'm so excited to experience this because what they do is they give owners, while they're waiting for their boat, a chance to take you can take as many classes as you want. And you pay for them, but you get reimbursed for all of it when you finally pay for the boat. And you take the weekend courses, and then there's the Ultramare week. They have a number of Ultramare weeks where a bunch of owners come and prospective owners come, and there's lessons, and there's ladies-only classes, and like all these other things. But then they also offer... I don't remember the name of the company that they do it through, but
so they have in France. They have a company that they work with called Escale Formation Technique, I think EFT. So they offer classes like sailing classes for diesel, for weather, for
instruments, and it's all related to the Ultramare boats.
Yeah. Well, not specifically. The Ultramare Week has like classes that are very targeted towards the Ultramare boat, but they have more generic classes about diesel engine, weather, whatever. So those are only in French. So I signed up for those.
Which is awesome.
But they're going to start doing some English classes starting next year. But
the Ultramare courses that are done through Ultramare are in English.
Yes,
so
both English
there's sort
and
of
French.
2 tracks. There's the Ultramare track, and then there's through this Escal company that is affiliated with Ultramare. So there's additional classes.
So it's great. They understand that, between the time you order a boat and the time you get your boat, they want people to stay involved and to learn about,
learn about
sailing,
the boat,
cruising the boat.
So by the time you get on it,
yeah. And on top of that, once you get your boat, they spend 5 days with you to go through your own boat. So we'll have to do one or multiple podcasts about the differences of buying a production boat, buying a Fountain Peugeot for our own experience versus buying a semi-custom boat like an Ultramare. I mean, this is one significant difference.
It's huge. Because when we got our FP, it was like, oh, here's the keys. See you later. High five. And we're like, oh, what's this button do? And even up until this past season, we were still discovering things about the boat. We're like, oh, that's where that is.
Yeah, and granted, with our dealer, there was the issue that one person was supposed to fly and spend maybe a day with us to go through the systems and stuff, but because of COVID, it couldn't come. So luckily, we hired a skipper that knew the boat, and we learned that way. But in this case, it's nice because you're learning before you get the boat, and then once you're on your boat, you still have a...
But what's also cool is, I think the FP process is more, here's the systems, here's the buttons, if we got 1 day or even 2 with them. Whereas what Ultramare tries to do is also teach you characteristics of sailing the boat, because it's a different kind of boat. And so it's not just here's the systems, but also, what different, points of sail for what and what to expect. And, I think that's going to be really helpful. I mean, at least for me because I get a little worried, so if I can see the boat in action doing these things, I can go, oh, okay, it can handle it. But you don't have that experience, when you're on a boat for the first time and you haven't been through that.
Yeah, you need to learn to trust your boat. And in this case, we're going to be able to go through weekends of basically spending a night on the boat, spending a full weekend, sailing hopefully in very different wind conditions, and then really learn to push the boat and sails and trim. And so then you're like comfortable with, you can push your own boat as opposed to go little by little on your own. Then it's great. So we'll definitely spend some time to explain what the process we go through with Ultramare. That's just one we're going to experience as soon as we get to France and this summer. That's one of the reasons spend time. But there is also other major differences, and we'll definitely spend time describing the differences so people understand.
That'll be really cool. And then we're going to take a trip to Lisbon and meet my sister and her family, who's going to go out and check out that area and do some other trips around France. So if anybody's in Europe and France, in the south of France, in La Grande Motte area.
Yeah. We'll be mostly based in La Grande Motte and Montpellier from April to the end of September. And then yeah. And then probably October we will probably do more traveling.
Yeah, a little bit more
because
traveling.
We want to spend some time on work related stuff. Yeah, maybe more.
And boat related stuff too.
And besides the boats and fun stuff too, hopefully, and learning French, practicing French, all that stuff.
Yep. So that's our big update. It kind of gave you a big dump of everything that happened, and sorry for being MIA. We had a lot of stuff going on and we're buried. And then some of the stuff we didn't really want to talk about until we could talk about it. But we're super excited about next week, and, so excited for the family that's getting our boat too. Or I should say Owen, because it won't be our boat anymore. And, we'll update you on that. And if you have any questions, please let us know at sailingowen@gmail.com. Fair winds for now.
Bon vent.
Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, like, or share with another covert castaway. Fair winds for now.